Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jermaine Kelly. Recently I submitted an app to the Replit Mobile Buildathon, and today I'm thinking about adding some in-app purchases. So I wanted to walk through how to add in-app purchases using Replit. The first thing that you got to do is you got to log into your App Store Connect, go to distribution, scroll down here on the side, go to in-app purchases, and then you'll get to this screen here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit create. We're going to select the type, and I'm going to choose non-consumable. Energy Forms Pack is going to be the reference name, and then the product ID I have on my clipboard. You can create your own product ID. Some best practices are just leaving it lowercase, human readable, etc., etc. Going to hit create. Awesome. So now I have to set up the availability, the price schedule, offer codes, localization, image, tax categories. Let's set up availability. I'm going to do it in just all countries and regions. For the price schedule, I think that $2.99 is a good price for the strike packs. As you can see, it's already broken down into the prices that you can choose from. And then if you click see additional prices, you can scale all the way up to $1,000 for an in-app purchase. So like I said, we're going to do $2.99. Awesome, it's already selected. And then once you select the price in your location, it will automatically optimize the price for each location in the world, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to confirm that. Offer codes. I think I'll come back and create an offer code, because once my in-app purchase is launched, it'd be pretty cool to be able to give someone a code where they can just access it for free, help me test it. In terms of app localization or App Store localization, I'm just gonna have a display name. So it looks like the App Store localization is what shows up on the App Store. And is like front facing to customers. So everything right here checks out. And then in terms of images, let's check this one. This one looks like it will work. Perfect. There's a screenshot for just the Apple review team, because they got to review your IAP. And I think on desktop, already created a screenshot. Cool. So I was thinking about this. So there's certain dimensions that your screenshot has to be. Screenshot specifications. So let's come over here. So they got to be like kind of like the dimensions of the iPhone exactly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna choose these dimensions and see if it takes it. 36. $12.60. 27.36. Let's see if this works. Now let's go back over to Apple. Let's see if our new size works. Boom. Perfect. And so looks like that's it. Once I submit this, I guess I just gotta wait for Apple to approve me. Some things to note that I missed when in the App Store Connect is that once you create the in-app purchase, you get a product ID, and that product ID is what Replit is then going to use to reference when creating the IAP within Replit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start now in Replit developing out IAP for these energy forms. I think that's all Replit needs is that product ID. All right, so I wrote a prompt to agent. I haven't sent it yet. It goes a little something like this. Next, I'd like to have the energy forms be linked to Apple's IAP. The cost is $2.99 for each form pack purchase, and I would like to start with the energy forms. Currently, our form packs have a begin button in the preview window. Down here. What I want that to do is I want that to be a purchase button. And then once the purchase is complete, I'll go back to begin. Clicking on the purchase slides up a card, paywall. Doesn't matter on what strike is selected as long as the strike is part of the pack. For $2.99, it'll unlock the entire pack. Attached is our product ID and a screen of one of the energy form strikes with the preview CTA. The CTA would now be purchased. After the purchase is successful, it will go back to saying begin. And then I usually like to say, I don't know if this is a pro tip or anything like this, or if anyone else does it. I always prompt the agent to give me its thoughts and to basically see if we're on the same page before any work begins. So let me know if this makes sense for you or if you have any questions. Thanks. I'm gonna send this. I have it in plan mode because especially as an early Replit user, I would ask it questions. Hey, what color is this? It's green. Should it be green? And it'll be like, no, actually, it should be orange. Let me do that for you. When in reality, I wanted it green. And by the time I can type to the agent to be like, no, 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 I wanted it green. I wanted it green. Obviously, it's a computer. It thinks in milliseconds. The changes are already done. And it would lead to me having to revert, having dead code. So I always give it a checkpoint to stop, think, and give me its thoughts so we can see if we're on the same page before we start building anything out. So I know that was a long explanation, but I think it's super useful. I never say, hey, go build this feature. I always say, hey, go build this type of feature. This is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And then once it tells me its thoughts and we're on the same page, then I'll give it the cue to start building or get started or whatever you guys like to say to prompt the agent to start working. So we're gonna drop this in here, see what it says. So while Replit does its thinking thing, there is one thing I did want to note is that for in-app purchases or things that require like using the iPhone's native infrastructure, you can't really test that in Expo Go. So if you do IAP and then you try to test it in Expo Go and it's not working, trust me, you're not crazy. You gotta just build and trust the agent at that point, and then send it to test flight. And in test flight, you can see if your notifications are working, your in-app purchases, if you're using, like for instance, in this app, I was using background music or background activity so that when the app went to the background, the music didn't stop. That wouldn't work in Expo Go. The only way I could test that is to do a build to the Apple Store and test flight and test it there. So that is one thing I did want to point out. Looks like we have some feedback from my boy. Let's check out its plan. So here's the plan. It's going to create the IAP service module, create a purchase date hook, build the paywall card component, update strike preview screen with purchase flow, wire purchase date into game screen, update energy forms pack, the unlock field, making sure it's dynamic, install React Native IAP package. So that's cool to know that there's already in React, there's already an IAP package. So it's not just freestyling code. There's already something that's written to help us be successful in launching IAP. I know some people like, oh, let's use Revenue Cat or let's use Stripe or something like that, which actually takes you away from the app. And I don't know how good that is for user for like UX, like a user experience. So I want to. This is my first time actually doing IAP. To be honest, I did a lot of research on it before I started, so we're kind of doing this together in real time. But I want to go native. I want to go native. So yeah, the impact is that um, my energy forms pack is going to be $2.99. Hand forms are free still. It's going to use async storage and Apple's receipt validation, which is awesome. Restore purchases available for users who reinstall, which is important. It's something that Apple was like, stop what you're doing, all hands on deck. Restore purchases must be like, it's one of those things that Apple really looks at in its review. So do pay attention to that. And then it said there's no back and changes really needed. All right, so everything is now implemented in regards to our in-app purchase. I'm going to go and review it here on the web first. So I'm going to tap to begin and make my way over to the strike packs. So now you can see that this has a nice little label with a lock for $2.99. If I click on that and click on any one of these energy forms, you can now see that instead of a begin button, it says purchase. So I'm going to click on purchase and a nice little modal pops up that explains the pack, what's included in the pack, how much it is, and a link to restore your in-app purchases. So the next step is I'm going to make my way over to, after I submit this build, I'm going to make my way over to App Store Connect and then navigate to the sandbox and make sure that the in-app purchase is working in the sandbox before submitting an official build for review to Apple. So now here we are in App Store Connect. What I'm going to do is I am going to select that new version. First, let's 2.0.2. It should be 0.2. Or I don't think that it would have even uploaded the build. 0.2, perfect. All right, so here we are with 2.0.2. I'm gonna create that. Awesome. Yup, and whoever hasn't been to this page before, I mentioned in my last video, where did all my screenshots go? All you gotta do is refresh the page. All right, perfect. So now I have the new version here, the new app version. What I'm going to do is attach that new version. So let's add a new build. Should be 55. Perfect. So we have the new build here. I am going to save this. Cool. And now I'm going to go to users and access so I can go to the sandbox here. And I'm going to add a new test account. Let's do and then this email here shouldn't be the email that you used for App Store Connect. It shouldn't be the one associated with your Apple account. So I am going to add another email. And the password. And then let's choose United States. Perfect. And this should create a new tester that I can use in order to test my IAP on my app. So I clicked it and nothing happened. It's probably one of those refresh things again. Let's see. Oh, Apple. All right, so we have a new tester here, and now when I open the app in test flight and I go to do a purchase, it should ask me if I want to go into sandbox mode. I can't show that to you here because I don't have like a way to hook up my phone and view it all fancy. I'm look, y'all, I am not an influencer, not a streamer or whatever. I'd much rather just be in the dark developing and building away, but I want to help anyone else that might possibly experience any of these issues or give them some clarity on how to do these processes. So I'm just doing the best I can. You could probably even hear my fridge in the background just humming away, enough to drive someone crazy, but I'm not going to go out and get no fancy equipment or no big cameras or anything like that. I think that the information is more important than all of that. So looks like we have our new test account. I'm going to go test this on my phone now. I think that's my last step. So I'm going to go test this on my phone and then report back to you guys on the process and how it went. All right. So the first test failed. Fail. Actually, the App Store recognized the app. The error was missing purchase request configuration. So, after some research, I found out that depending on what version of React you're using, you need to add this line to your purchase product function. And this line, so when you do an in-app purchase, what happens is the purchase automatically goes through and then Apple handles that part, the purchase going through on their end. But because we're building in React Native, the purchase actually gets handled by React Native. So we need to tell Apple not to finish the purchase and let React Native do it. And so that's what this line does. And dangerously finish transaction automatically iOS. You got to change that to false. What an insane name. And dangerously finish transaction automatically iOS. So yeah, I added that to this file. You got to add it to the IAP.ts file. So the best way to find that is just come up here, go to your search, type in IAP.ts, and then just open that, and that'll open this. And then you want to find where your purchase product function is, and then make sure that you have this line added if you're using React Native 14 plus or something like that. Check with your agent, maybe do some Google searches, but I'm pretty sure this is the line we need to add. So I'm going to go ahead, add that, and then re-upload the build to test flight and test again and let you know if that solved the problem. Fam, 4 hours later, I'm struggling over here, but I think I might have found a clue. So if I go to in-app purchases, I can see that I have an in-app purchase here created. I can check it out here, all of that. But every time I try to do it in test flight, I get this error where I get a spinner and then it just disappears and nothing happens. I have to record this stuff before I find out if there's a solution, because if there's a solution, then you guys don't get to see the steps leading up to it. So I don't even know if this will work, but I did find that if I check out my app and click on it, when I scroll through it, I did neglect down here to add that in-app purchase, and maybe that's why it's not finding it. So I'm gonna click on it, I see it there. I'm gonna add it here. Okay, now that it's added, I think I can test it now. Hopefully it works. So I'll keep you guys posted on this journey of getting IAP implemented correctly. I feel like I'm close. Once I have a big breakthrough, I'll definitely let you guys know so that you guys don't have to waste 4 hours and $70 chatting with the agent trying to figure this stuff out. So see you guys in a little bit. Hour 253,000. So there was something I wanted to mention that might save you a lot of headache. Make sure you go to your business and agreements and make sure everything is active. I had almost everything active, but I didn't have any bank accounts added because wasn't planning on setting up IAP at the time when I submitted the app, and I didn't think I needed it for development, just to test on my end. But apparently you do. And this is what's really important. After you set up all your agreements, your bank accounts, your tax forms, the only one that I had to do was my bank account, but there's a propagation time. So even if you set up your bank account, you might think that your code is wrong, the app's not working, what could it be? Stack Overflow, here I come. In reality, it's just waiting like an hour, sometimes up to 24 hours. But personally, for me, it took about an hour to propagate. And so, in between that time, obviously, I was thinking all of these different things and solutions and consulting the internet, and in reality it was just waiting an hour. So make sure all your forms are set up. That will definitely help you. And I actually did get it working on the phone. I'm going to insert a video of it working. I haven't done a purchase yet because I wanted to show you the screen before I purchased it. So I'm going to be testing that soon. um, there was something that was interesting. If you come back over here, and we were in the IAP.ts, and there was a crazy function. Here we go. So this was the crazy Boolean that we went over earlier, and we needed to make sure it was false. Earlier, this had iOS appended at the end of it, and in order for it to work for the version of React that I'm sure a lot of us are using, I think I said earlier 14 plus, but I think it just has to be 12 plus. But I think I had iOS at the end of this, and so removing that, making sure this is set to false, definitely was one of the blockers for me. And then the main blocker, the worst blocker to have, is just not having your agreements and all your forms filled out in your business section. All right, so some misinformation. Earlier, I came down here, I added the build, and then I added the in-app purchase just because it was my first time and I want to be on the safe side of things. But in reality, I don't think you need to have your in-app purchase linked to your build, to your app version, and your build added or anything like that in order to test your in-app purchases. In my attempt to try everything and just to have my I's dotted and my T's crossed, I went ahead and added all that. But in reality, I don't think you need that. You just need to make sure that in-app purchases, that everything is set up correctly. The reason I'm pausing a little bit is because there is one thing I want to mention now that I'm here. One thing you don't want to, and it's, you might be like, that's so stupid. Who would ever, how could anyone? But one thing that you don't want to confuse is the in-app events versus in-app purchases. So I know they feel like they're almost exactly similar. And if this is your first time, you might click into in-app events and do the whole process and set up in-app events and be like, why isn't it working? And in reality, you need to be in your in-app purchases. And then in your in-app purchases, once you're done, this should say ready to submit. Your product ID, you want to make sure that's being passed to Replit. I think that's about it. So yeah, just one of the main blockers was some custom code that you can double check if you're running into issues in your IAP.ts file, and making sure all of your business stuff is filled out. And that should save you the 8 hours that has been taking me so far in order to do this. One other tip and trick is based on the message that Apple sent back. I asked the agent to translate that into a human readable message as to what's going on. And so the message that kept coming back was that the product couldn't be found. Just know at that moment that everything should be set up for the most part pretty correctly. And the product not being found is because Apple isn't making your product public, because most likely you have your forms to fill out or you have some information to fill out in here. And so now that that's all filled out, I'm going to go through the entire flow on my app, and just to make sure that it works fully. And then I'll report back and let you guys know how that is. Hopefully there is no more issues and it's just smooth sailing from here on out, and I can come back and say, fam, we did it. All right, y'all. So I just tested the app. It works through the purchase flow. And there was something that was strange. It was that it was using my regular Apple Store email. I thought that was pretty strange because there was this whole talk about the sandbox and setting up a test user, and there was no real way to change to this test user, change my account information to this test user, other than logging out of iCloud and all that stuff, which I didn't think was the best move to make. So I tested the purchase with just my regular account and it worked. When I went into my purchases, because in the sandbox I was using a different user, so obviously there's not going to be any products purchased there. And when I went to my iPhone to check in media and purchases and see what I purchased, there was no last purchase there, which kind of makes sense because it was a test purchase, so I don't expect it to be there. So I feel like there's a gap for Apple there. In order to confirm that it worked correctly, I deleted the app and then reinstalled it, went back to the purchase page, and then went to restore purchase, and like clockwork, it just automatically restored the purchase. So I am going to conclude that this works. I am going to do a little bit more tinkering on my end and then submit to Apple, see what their review team has to say. But I'm so sorry, this was my clumsy journey around creating IAP. I took you from the beginning of when I started all the way to the end where it was successful. I hope there were some things in there that can help you along the way of your journey. I hope you blaze through this and do it super fast and not have to go through a lot of the things that I went through. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please leave a like, subscribe. I have a lot more coming for you in the future. Other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.